Back to you again from Nile International with the 3-in-1 Sports Program. Well, the matter of fact, we were very proud of Abdurrahman, and all the others has achieved a lot of medals. We will see one later, Amira Mansour, in another report, and we will also have the Sports World News later on. Well, the guest of tonight, one of the very special people, one of the people has made a very super benchmark in the sport of squash. Well, the matter of fact, he started as a very young fellow, and then he started to be the national champion when he was 12 years old. Since then, until he retired, he was the national champion on all ages or age group he played with. And in the meantime, he was the junior world champion with the very first ever team to set this record to the country. And in the meantime, he was the very first one also with the senior world team, and he was the team captain. And I'm very happy to have him among us tonight, Omar ElBorolossy. Omar, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm good.
How's squash?
Very well.
Well, at the beginning, we would like just to spotlight on how did you get involved to squash, and why especially squash?
I was playing sports in Maadi club, like all other kids were playing swimming at the beginning, and my uncle used to play squash. I went with him one day. I was like 4 or 5 years old, very, very young age. And I liked the game, and I took it from there. I kept playing swimming and squash at the same time till I was like 10 or 11 years old, and then I was doing better in squash, so I continued in squash, and since then I'm involved in squash.
Well, I think swimming after your dad, because your dad was one of the people in the first league of handball and also water polo.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Khalid ElBorolossy. And in the meantime, you have among you also your 3 kids. You have one is Marwan, 10 years old. He's playing squash.
He's the one who's playing squash seriously now. Just started playing seriously and started playing tournaments. He's 10 years old now, starting playing the first age group, which is under 11 now.
He is on taking his dad's footsteps.
Yeah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And I have my 2 other daughters. Amina, she's 6, just starting to learn squash.
I'm
now.
reminding you.
And
and Aula?
Names of the 2 others. No,
and Aula?
is 6, and Aula is 3 years old.
Very good, very good. God bless them all. So you put them really in the atmosphere of a sport.
Yes, yes. I think this is the best atmosphere ever. We all went through this. We were raised in the club. Not outside. It's much better atmosphere. Socially, it's better. Athletically, it's very good for your health. Very good for your mental stability, everything. I want them to be at the club, to train, to play sports, to learn discipline from sports. It makes a huge difference in the personality. It will be good for them, even if they don't continue sports as a professional level or at the highest level, but it makes a huge difference in their personality and in the way someone thinks about his life and his future.
Well, in a matter of fact, I want to tell our audience that the parents are playing very active part, and that's what Omar ElBorolossy is doing for the time being, with using or even being one of it in squash, and in the meantime using his name to have his own academy. We'll come to that later, but when we talk about the parents, we will talk about his father, Dr. Khalid ElBorolossy, as we mentioned, that he was one of the lead sports people in the handball and in the meantime in water polo. And his mother, God bless her soul, she was playing a very active part in your life as well while you were starting your career in squash. You started 12 and she died, God bless her soul, when you were 90.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
It's for sure. I dedicate all my achievements to my parents. They did all the efforts. Same for many other parents of all Egyptian champions, because still, especially in the 80s and the 90s, the governmental support was still very minimum for the champions, and for parents had to do all the work. When I was very young, يعني my mother used to take me to all the clubs to train in many different places and many different clubs. And also I had my sister Amira, she was the Egyptian champion in tennis.
Yeah.
So she had to take me somewhere to train squash and then take my sister to train tennis somewhere else. And it was very difficult, and it's a huge effort. And I learned from her a lot. And this is what I'm doing with my kids now. This is what I learned from my parents. My dad had also a great role. He used to travel with me to international tournaments when I was young, and I had to travel. I couldn't travel on my own. They both had a great effect on me, and it's them. It's all what I've achieved, all what I've done. It's my parents' role and my parents' efforts. And I hope I can do the same with my kids.
Yeah, I'm sure that you're going to do that. I just wanted to inform you that Omar ElBorolossy is an engineer. He graduated from the AUC. What is with the profession? How is the profession, merge with the squash? I have seen a very good point that you mentioned to me, which is that you are working in your field with the sport. Talk to us about that.
Yes, I was. First, I learned engineering. I love engineering, and I went to engineering by choice. I chose to study engineering. I graduated from the American University in Cairo with a construction engineering degree. That was in January 2000.
Wow.
I didn't want to. I couldn't even work as a full-time engineer and leave squash because I was at the top of my career. And when I graduated, I was number 13 or 14 in the world in squash. I was already full-time professional, and I used to travel and play tournaments. So I couldn't just leave squash and just start a normal standard engineering career. I saw there's a marketing gap in Egypt, like a market gap in Egypt in the field of sports engineering, if we can call it like this.
It's true.
In sports constructions.
It's true.
So I started my own company or my own business to work as an engineering consultant in sports projects, like doing planning and design and construction of sports facilities. So I mixed my knowledge and my background, my engineering background, with my experience in sports, and because I've been all over the world, visited so many clubs, I've seen so many sports facilities, I've seen how sports is constructed and how is it planned and how is it managed. So I learned all this, but I wanted to use my experience to improve and develop the sports in Egypt in a better way.
Well, Omar ElBorolossy, as one of the stars, the very first people start the squash, to put the squash on the map of victories with Ahmed Barada. In the meantime, do you think that Omar ElBorolossy is different when he was a player? Then after he graduated, being engineer, Omar ElBorolossy started to look to life with a new aspect, not from the engineering side, not from the sports side. I mean, what is your overall look after all this career and very successful career in squash and also in studies?
Just more experience. I've always loved sports. I love what I learned in engineering. Most of my work is mainly sports management now. The engineering is not that big, but I enjoy doing the sports management and sports development, especially in squash, which is the thing that I master and I can do very well. I use my background, my education in everything I do. Sometimes people ask me, "You're an engineer. Why aren't you working in engineering?" I told them I'm doing engineering all the time, because engineering it's the way of thinking, it's a way of analyzing, problem solving, it's management, it's everything. It's not like building and that's it. It's a way of life. So I use my background and my education in every aspect of my work, in organizing my academy, in doing schedules, in planning for opening new branches, in everything. I use it everywhere. I use my computer skills in doing all sorts of stuff in our business. But it's not a waste. It's a good education. You use it anyway in anything.
Well, speaking of successful Engineer Omar ElBorolossy to success of Amira Mansour. Archery, she was one of the gold young ladies when in the Pan Arab Games. Let's have this interview with Abdurrahman Saleh, directed by Mohamed Rawia. Not only the girls, of course, and the men, but I'm proud also of the archery, thanks to Ala Gabr, who was putting the president, of course, of the archery Egyptian Federation. And in the meantime, he was one of the very few elite sports people, has really achieved in every single sport he's played in, and he is doing that also in his sports administration with his federation, which is something we should be very proud of. That's what all the Egyptians are supposed to be. I mean, when you are in position, you have to prove yourself and you have to help the others to try to maintain whatever you couldn't be able even to do. Anyway, we're back to our guest of tonight, Engineer Omar ElBorolossy, the former world champion of junior and senior team world championships. Well, Omar, let's talk about what is the best age you can see for squash, whether for boys and girls, to start, and how you achieving that through your Omar ElBorolossy's academy in squash?
It's mostly like most of other sports. We usually encourage young kids aging 5 or 6 years old to start. We take kids starting 4 years old if they're mentally and physically ready. We start with them with very, very little things, even without a racket, just throwing balls and stuff to help them with coordination and stuff. 4, 5, 6 years old is good. I always advise them to play either swimming or gymnastics to get a good sports background. For 2 or 3 years, swimming or gymnastics, it helps the kids very, very well. So I always advise them to play squash and gymnastics, or squash and swimming for a few years till they're physically strong and they can take more training. So it's usually.
Do you take care of that also under your supervision, or you just advise?
In other sports, and officially I just advise, but usually because they play at the same club, sometimes I see some of them, and my young daughter was playing gymnastics in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I used to see other girls playing with her, and they play in my academy squash. My son used to play swimming, and he used to play soccer. I see other kids. I'm at the club all the time, so I see all my kids and all my players playing. I give them like advice, but I usually, every new entrant, I always ask him, does he play or does she play any other sports? When they say no, I said no, he must like squash or like these individual sports like squash and tennis and stuff. They're very technical. At the very young age, they're not enough, because like you play squash or tennis like twice a week for half an hour or an hour. But the child at the age of 5, 6, or 7, they have a huge amount of energy. They need to move, they need to run, they need to do all kinds of sports. It helps their coordination, which will make him or make her a better squash player later on.
Well, what I see through my experience with the sport, that I have seen your Omar ElBorolossy school of squash. I have seen Rania and Mahmoud Alwani's school, which is Alwani's school in swimming, which is something really can attract the young youth to see the role model in front of them and just be able to compete and mix up with, and could be able to speak to that celebrity in the sport and so on and so forth. Comparing to that with football, do you think that your schools under the name of the champions of the individual sports doing better than the schools under the name of the legends of football as well?
It's different because our sport is individual sport. So it's a brand name is the name of the champion himself or herself. Like swimming, like squash, like in tennis, like even like the big international names. If